Cool. So it looks like we have a number of folks on here today. And again, really appreciate everybody joining us for this masterclass of cloud security. We'll go ahead and get started. Like to welcome you all. What I'd like to first do is introduce our presenters today. First, my name is Ben Grimion. I'm a senior account executive here at Davenport Group. I've been here for a little over 10 years. And really excited to talk to you about what we got going on today. Our other presenters, and if you could forward to the next slide. Our other presenters are Mike Seshiki, that is going to be talking about our services team. Mike is a recently joined here at Davenport Group, and really excited to show him all that we can do from the services side. And then we also have Brian Bennett, who is our field CISO. I imagine a number of you have spoken with Brian before. One of my favorite people to listen to help out our customers. And then we also have Steve Orapollo, who's one of our senior systems engineers who handles a lot of our data protection side of the house and implementing those solutions. To go a little bit over the agenda today, first I'm going to talk a little bit about Davenport Group. Some of you have worked with us for a number of years, but some of you have worked for us just a little bit. So I'll go a little bit about Davenport Group, but I also want to talk about all these other pieces here. And the truth of the matter is your data right now is just everywhere. And besides employees, it's the most important asset within your organization. Some might say data is everything. What we're going to talk about today is how do we protect this data that is virtually everywhere. Data is in the cloud with O365, cloud applications like Salesforce, Google Workspace, or just in some cloud somewhere, but then data is also still on-prem for the most part. And we're going to talk about how we can set up these solutions securely and according to best practices with our engineering services team, and that's what Mike will be covering here in a little bit. But second, your employees have to connect to your data that is everywhere, and they need to be able to connect to it securely, privately, and make sure they don't add any bad data or malware that could possibly harm some of the data that you have there. And that's where Brian will go over our portfolio around Davenport Group Secure and some specific solutions within our Davenport Group Secure portfolio. And lastly, you'll need to be able to back up this data that is everywhere and be able to recover it in case something happens, somebody deletes something or gets bad data in there, no matter where the data is, on-prem or in the cloud. And the data in your organization is what is on our minds day in, day out. And what we're going to go over today is how Davenport Group can not only educate you on how to protect this data that is virtually everywhere, but also be there for you to make sure it's secure, it's set up securely and correctly and continually secured. And you can do this with a partner that you've trusted many times over the years at Davenport Group. So who is Davenport Group? We are a full-scale IT solution provider. And some of you that are with us today worked with us for a number of years. Some of you maybe just a number of months. But you can see all the solutions that we really focus on here at Davenport Group. And what's really fun to see is every time I do one of these presentations, the solutions focus column in the services, it just keeps growing. And it's all growing based on really you, the customer that has been saying, hey, y'all are really good at storage, or you're really good at networking or virtualization. I appreciate that. Could you also help me out with security? Could you also help me out with better protecting my data? And that's where we add those capabilities, find those engineers, find the best engineers in the country to help you get there. And we're so excited you joined us today to help out with that. But you know what the core of what Davenport Group is all about. It's about that relationship. It's about working with the same team over and over again. It's about having the best engineers in the country helping you out with any type of solution that's out there. And you've learned to depend on Davenport Group to be there over and over again. And what we want to do today is really just educate you, because these webinars are all about you and getting the most out of these. What we're going to do today is educate you on some of the other capabilities and some of the specific products around cloud security that we can help you out. Now, the first thing that we're going to go over is our services team. We're going to have Mike Seshiki come up here and talk to you about the services that we can do, but specifically kind of around that O365 and the data that's in the cloud there. Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks, Ben, and thanks everyone for your time today. As Ben went over who Davenport Group is, I'm here today just talk a little bit about why you should adopt and use our Davenport Group services. Ben shared a lot of our capabilities on that last slide. So I'm kind of just going to piggyback off of that at a very, very high level. Our services include implementation, application, and managed services. And if you've really worked with our engineering team before, then you know how good our services are. If you haven't had the opportunity to partner up with us yet, our certified professionals are experts in architecture, installation, configuration, migration, and management. We have technical capabilities to be comfortable in multiple environments, multiple scale, and really just to help out, right, in any with any engineering needs that you have. Our expertise comes with this our full white glove services. And again, if you worked with our engineering team before, you kind of know this is where we start to separate ourselves from everyone else. Our goal, of course, is to satisfy your IT needs, but also we want you to have the best experience possible. We want you to feel like you can come to us with any question at any time through any stage of the project or beyond that, right? Because you really can. We really believe in the relationships that we have with you and the partnerships that we have with you all. Today, we're going to be focusing more on Microsoft 365 cloud security, but our engineers can also help roadmap and architect other environments. And then also we have application development if you need that as well. For our managed services portfolio, we have bundled offerings with DG Care for maintenance, DG Secure for security, and DG Cloud for backup and disaster recovery. We've bundled these up for a tiered approach to kind of make it easy and convenient for y'all. But we also know that, bundles don't always fit everybody, and we do offer services a la carte. And we're happy to discuss, right, any kind of custom engagement that you need or any kind of services, questions, or issues that you may have. The world, of course, has gone kind of crazy in the last couple of years. So there might be pain points that you have with staffing, knowledge gaps, or just your workload just got really, really heavy over the last couple of years. And we're definitely here to help. Again, I would just kind of recommend you reaching out to your account executive so we can have that conversation. Next slide, please. As we kind of talked about how crazy the world has got over the last couple of years, recent pandemic, changing workforce, right? A lot of businesses, and I'm sure a lot of you have adapted to working from home and remote environments. If you were using the Microsoft Office suite, you probably moved on to Microsoft 365, and that offers a wide variety of cloud and collaboration tools. But with that wide variety, there sometimes can be confusion and complexities on how to not just get yourself up and operating smoothly, but also securely. All right, and we are a cloud service provider that can help design and build to your production needs. And this can include licensing conversations, collaboration tool conversations, just conversations around your production goals and where you are now and where you want to take it, as well as recommendations and best practices for securing Microsoft 365. As we kind of look at these offerings as well, it's a lot of items, but this also isn't our full portfolio. So if you have any questions regarding Microsoft 365 in general, whether it's on this or not, please feel free to reach out to your account exec. Ben, you have a question?
Yeah, and I just have to say that in my 20 years experience of working around Microsoft, there's not been a better team to help you in any type of complex or simple situation when it comes to Microsoft there. So you see the Microsoft 365, that's kind of the usual stuff that we do day in, day out, migrate you from Exchange to hosted Exchange in O365, or if you have email, 5 or 6 email servers across your organization, you need to consolidate that down. Nobody better in the country to help you out with that. But then also we have things like SharePoint is becoming much more and more popular. SharePoint as a service online. We have experts that can help you out with that and have migrated a lot of customers into that traditional kind of file server that's sitting there on-prem into more of a SharePoint, or even set up some Azure files to better organize that and make it more available, we have the engineers that can help you out with any of those types of just unique unique needs for unique environments. And there's nobody better to help out with that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I mean, our team is great, right? Again, we have a lot of items listed out here on the slide, but we are comfortable having any kind of Microsoft 365 conversation. So please, if you have any questions, please ask. Next slide, please. So for securing Microsoft 365, we have put together a short list of recommendations to help you secure Microsoft 365, but just kind of as a disclaimer, right? It's not the fix-all to everything. We know every environment's different, scale, complexity. You know your environment's different than probably everybody else's. So all of these may help. Again, it's not kind of the fix-all for everything. We're going to start off with syncing user base with on-prem Active Directory, and basically you just want to utilize your AD Connect, right, to replicate your on-prem users to Microsoft 365, and that helps you configure single sign-on and conditional access. Conditional access we'll talk about in a second, but from the single sign-on piece, it helps your users, right, to not have to sign in multiple times, but it also helps from a security standpoint, because usually when you have your user sign in for multiple times, they are using the same password. So this helps kind of eliminate those two things. Multi-factor authentication sign-on, right? This is kind of just a quick and easy way to make sure that the person who's signing on is actually the person signing on. From a security standpoint, it's kind of serves, again, two purposes. One, that user knows, right, and is able to authenticate that it's them. And if they are compromised, right, they're able to identify that, let your IT staff know. So either you can investigate or you can have us investigate that for you. Conditional access policies, we listed just a couple on here: geofences, trusted device policies, and trusted location policy. But again, these are just kind of setting up parameters and restricting access for devices and locations, so your users can't go into the wrong places and be vulnerable. Again, right, though, this is kind of a short list, and we know that there's multiple different policies that you can implement. Limit sharing from SharePoint and OneDrive. Collaboration is necessary these days, right, for sure, but it's also a point of breach, possibly, uploading, downloading, sharing files, right? You want to be able to make sure that your users are only have what they're supposed to have, and not being able to share or gain access to things that could possibly, again, make you vulnerable. Limit global admin access. There's a need, right, for more admins. And as that need kind of grows, you just want to make sure you're not giving your keys away to your kingdom. If your admin levels don't need to have full global admin, you want to make sure that you know who does have it, and where you can restrict those levels, again, just to make it a little bit more secure. Again, this is kind of just a short list. We know that this isn't a fix-all for everything. If you have any questions on anything that I've talked about, or anything that was on the screen, or anything that's even off the screen about Microsoft 365, please let me know before I turn it over to the actual smart people that are going to talk about the smart things. I want to know if there's any questions that I can help out with.
Michael, I had one question, but we also have a question in chat. Maybe we cover the one that's in chat first, or maybe we can answer that later on in the discussion. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, and the question is this, and this may be a more detailed answer, but if you're using a .gov cloud such as Azure or AWS from a third-party vendor, obviously they have their own security and backup. What approach are businesses using to secure their own data? That can be any type of data that's out there, whether it be rich media, video, or other data type. Not sure if that's something that, Mike, offhand, or we need to get with engineering and can follow up with Stephen on that.
I for sure don't want to misspeak on anything here, so I would say let's get back. Let's run this back. I don't know if Brad's on here. Maybe Brad can jump in and answer that if he is on. If not, we're gonna have to circle back to that one, Stephen. Sorry.
Stephen, good question. Yeah, we'll circle back with you. I know Brad's not on here.
Sure.
But Stephen, we'll get back in touch with you on that one for sure.
Yeah. Michael, the other question that I had, and typically comes up is, couldn't I just buy M365 directly through Microsoft? Like why?
Yeah.
Like why go through somebody else?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, right? And you can absolutely go direct through Microsoft. From a pricing standpoint, I'm pretty sure that the price variance won't be that much different, but we are a cloud service provider and partnered up with Microsoft. So our engineers are your level one support for any issues and questions. So again, if you work with our engineering team before, you kind of know how good they are. So that would be the first thing. And then we also offer a self-service portal for your licensing, billing, and reporting. It's kind of your one-stop shop to make management easier. So again, you can for sure buy directly through them, but I think going through us, you'll get a little bit better experience.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick, for the shout out there. And Patrick's Vest just put in the chat, he's talking about our portal. It's called our My Cloud portal, where it makes it very easy to manage and maintain those Microsoft licenses. And also, as your tenant, you can actually get a lot of good reporting from it as well. And if that's something you're having a headache with, whoever you're getting your O365 subscriptions through or your Azure subscriptions through, reach out to your account executive. They can definitely show you how good it can get and how simple it can get there. Good question. And do we have any other questions with the group? If you feel free, come off mute or just put your question in the chat there. All right, cool. Well, thanks, Mike, for going over that. I think we have a poll question for the whole group here. You'll see a poll question kind of pop up on your screen here in just a moment. How do you keep Teams and OneDrive secure? So if you could answer that, we'd love to hear back from you on that. I love the, I'm not sure. That's probably the most common answer, but we'll see that here in a second. I know that stuff is being used, and whether you intend to use it or not, that's for sure on everybody's environment. Well, I appreciate you answering the poll question. We'll come back to those here later on. Moving right along, we have our virtual CISO, Brian Bennett, who will be going over I'll say somewhat of a new offering from Davenport Group, but it's all, again, customer driven, where it is, hey, customers came back to us and say, hey, could you help us out more with this? This is kind of a need, and I really trust you, and I want to work with you. And that's where we develop Davenport Group Secure. These are security solutions to help secure that data that is everywhere, or the data that's getting into your environment, and make sure it's the right type of data that you want to work on. And Brian Bennett will be going over some specifics around some of the offerings we have with our Davenport Group Secure. And he's one of the, again, my favorite people to listen to, because I feel like I learn a little bit every single time, and I don't just feel scared around security. He's really here to educate and prevent those calls from a customer at 2 a.m. on a Saturday to try to solve some type of issue there. He wants much more to educate you on what will prevent those calls from even happening. So, Brian, I'll turn it over to you to dive into some Davenport Group Secure.
Thanks, Ben. And yes, I definitely would enjoy having conversations while the sun is up instead of 2 o'clock in the morning on the other end of the conversation during a bad day. But yes, so we're just going to continue talking about being able to secure your 365 environment. Next slide, please. So anyone that has ever heard me speak on a webinar or met me in person, I'm all about the numbers, because these are the things that I look at. These are the things that concern me, cause me some sleepless nights, because I kind of get an idea of the real picture that's out there on the landscape. And so a couple of them that I want to talk through today was right now, statistics are showing that 75% of ransomware is being delivered through some sort of email delivery system. So, I mean, you think about it, every one of us are using email on a daily basis. All of our employees are using it. So that is the attack vector coming into our organization. And about half of the files that are being detected with malicious content right now are coming in with a Microsoft extension. So it is the documents that we work with, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of the things that we share on a daily basis and we create. So as these come into our mailboxes and to our users' mailboxes, nothing stands out. It just looks like what we do on a daily basis, but we don't know what's really hidden behind that. And with the uptick since COVID, over 200% uptick in phishing attacks since COVID, we're getting a whole lot more chances for that type of file to get into our business. One of the most interesting one that I ran across here recently is about 70% of organizations have had some sort of cloud security breach. And that can be looked at from multiple ways, whether one of our users sent out a link to share files and it didn't have the exact permission set that it should have, or sharing a folder, a bucket with incorrect permissions, or even down to a compromised workstation that a threat actor might have had access to some of our cloud data. And you start thinking about these type of numbers, and you can quickly see how it can cause for some sleepless nights. Next, please. And so Davenport Group recently, we were in the market for upping our security game. We are a heavy 365 user. As you can see with the call today, we use Teams on a daily basis, 365 email. So we wanted to take our security to the next step as well. So we set out on a venture. And what we were really looking for, and we came across, was a tool that it has the anti-phishing, the anti-spam, and malware prevention, like probably all of us have now in front of our email system. But we also started picking up some ransomware protection, where things are, analysis is given, and we can see where potential emails have come from already flagged ransomware delivers or flagged IP addresses. And so we can start actually building that list of protection for everything that we have coming into the organization. Account takeover. Recently, we had several of our employees that were on a trip together, and we started to quickly get notifications that users were logging in from new locations. And so this kind of gives you an idea. If we start getting alerts that logins are happening from China, Russia, Germany, those are the ones we want to be able to go research and get down to, and actually look and see if we have an account compromise. URL protection and attachment sanitization, those are huge. As these documents are coming in, we're getting more and more links to click here, look at our webcast. We wanted to know what were behind those links, or being able to even open up those links in a trusted sandbox. Be able to clean the attachment if it was able to, and get that delivered, a clean copy delivered to our users. Data leakage prevention. Everyone should have this on your mind, because you really don't want your organizational sensitive information to leave your organization. So we create some filters, and this is an ongoing being dialed in as we speak, but looking at social security numbers, driver's license numbers, credit cards. Those are things that we don't want our employees sending out, and we would like to know if our employees are even receiving those. It works with our Microsoft 365 encryption. Any of you that have done my security assessments, that's how I deliver my final report, is I make sure that goes through an encrypted channel, because I really don't want that information out there. So that tool had to work with that as well. And the tool we also came across works with email archiving. So for compliance reasons, or instead of going to a third-party archiver, we were able to utilize one tool for this. Next slide. And so the tool we settled on is called Avanon. And so one of the big things that I loved about it right out of the gate is it's invisible to threat actors. And so anybody that knows a little bit about how email works and the public domain of email, you can quickly find out what kind of email security someone is running. Just doing even a Google search, you can find that. But because Avanon hooks in with an API to your 365 tenant, it in essence hides it from the threat actors, because they can't see what's really the security mechanism in front of your email. It also was huge for us, because now we are able to protect our file shares and our chat protection. As I mentioned, we use Teams, but we also use SharePoint and OneDrive, and just having an email gateway, we do not get that capability of scanning those. Ransomware can be uploaded, downloaded from anywhere. And so that includes places like Teams and OneDrive. So now this tool gives us the capability and a peace of mind that we are working with clean files on a daily basis. It also has the capability to scan internal emails. So the emails between employee to employee. That's where your typical message gateway falls short as well. Now we make sure that if any of our users, our employees, are sending emails between each other, that those files are clean as well. Shadow IT, if you've not heard of Shadow IT, this is where we can start getting a picture of what other applications might be in use by your workforce, your employees. Things like maybe Google Drive or Dropbox. Maybe you're not aware that you have users saving some of their files in their personal Dropbox. And we can start to see that now, that visibility as those emails are going back and forth. And then we get into when you get techie and nerdy, and you start getting into the deep email analysis, the real-time reporting, and the forensics, we actually get a good picture of where all that message has bounced around the globe. We can find out maybe it started out in China and came over to the US and bounced around a couple servers here in the US before it was being delivered to us. So we start getting that analysis engine where we can start seeing the reputation of, has the organization received an email from this before? Have we seen this IP address before? And we can start building that reputation and figure out if that's something we want to trust and start building trust on, or if that's something we want to go ahead and put a block in place. This is all agentless. So there's nothing to install in Outlook or any kind of any servers anywhere. This is all done through the API integration. And of course, for all of the security frameworks out there for compliance reasons, we have the capability now to see the logs, the audit logs that the auditors would be looking for if they came into your environment and say, hey, are you meeting this requirement?
I'll give you some real world examples here. Is like, I've been in the IT industry for 20 years and had a lot of different type of email security solutions out there. And this has been the most transparent from an end user perspective. I don't even know that this is happening. So it's that constant balance that us IT professionals have to deal with keeping things secure, keeping email secure, with users not knocking on your door wondering why their email isn't working. It's that constant balance. And this has been the best tool we've rolled out and found out there that is just, I don't think you've had any user complaints since we've rolled it out.
Not that I'm aware of, but no, that's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
Yeah.
All right, next, please. And so it is, because we love this tool so much, we're drinking our own Kool-Aid, but we also wanted to make this available for our customers as an offering as well. So we built our managed service practices around this tool, as we have many other security tools here recently. But it just boils down to, it's a simple subscription service. So there's no maintenance renewals, there's no Energizer updates that we have to purchase. It's a simple subscription on an annual basis, and there's no more hardware that we have to go out and refresh every so often. And what we've done is we've put that, we partner with a security operations center that gives us the ability to have everything monitored 24/7. So if any red flags go off or smoke signals go in the air at 2 o'clock in the morning, they wake us up and we dive in and see what's really going on to make sure that we stop the threats before they actually get to your inbox. And then our team works with you to make sure that if there are things missing, if we need to track something down, we work with you and make sure that we figure out what it is and get it delivered. Ben, did we have another question?
Yeah, we had a question from Jim that just said, would the Avanan solution be in addition to like a Barracuda or a replacement for it?
So if you're talking about your Barracuda secure message gateway, this would be a replacement. So we could take the Barracuda out of the inline and we could push the MX record, push all the mail to Office 365, and then we hook in with API there. And so we still get that inline protection that you would get with that Barracuda. But no, good question, Jim. And then so because of that, because of this offering, we've put this in the hands of our managed services team. So they're the ones handling the day-to-day security operations for your email and your collaboration. So they're the ones that, they see the blocks come in, the quarantines come in, the requests for release. Our guys take that off of your plate so you can go start working on the sticky notes or the project whiteboard that you have behind your desk. We want to help free up that burden of time that you've been focused on taking care of email or securing your email. And everything is done through a ticket-based support. So if there's something that you need to track down, if there's an email missing that you think should have been there, or an attachment that got stripped, you simply email into our team and let our team get to the root of the problem or find the deliverable, but make sure that we ultimately keep you secure and keep your operations moving efficiently.
That's pretty awesome, because not only are we setting up that O365, getting everything set up with the Avanan and doing that to best practices, we're also the team that then supports that email security side of it as well. Not just two different entities kind of arguing back and forth. No, they broke it. No, they broke it. No, we're working together there, all providing that complete email security solution.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of the engineers that many of you have already worked with are engaged with this as well. So it won't be missing a beat. There won't be any confusion or lost the ball there.
Awesome.
But I'll stop here and just poll the room. Are there any questions? Anybody have any additional questions other than Jim?
Yeah, feel free to come off mute if you want to ask your question and just put it there in the chat.
Yeah, hi Ben. I have a question for Brian. So I'm wondering how would this be different or maybe better than a secure email gateway?
Good question. And it goes a little bit deeper. I just briefly talked about why would it be a replacement for their Barracuda. So that's your secure message gateway. So all the mail goes through that, but what you actually don't know is in many cases, your mail system is set up to still receive mail from anywhere. So if someone spends the time, they actually could bypass that security message gateway like the Barracuda and actually just send mail directly to your email server. So with this Avanan, this working in with the API, it's able to catch that kind of mail as well. It's still going to get filtered and checked for security. And another thing, like I mentioned, there's no hardware replacement. So anybody running a message gateway has to refresh that hardware every so often. And with Avanan, we completely take that out of the picture. It's not worked into the equation at all. That's where some of the benefits that I really like of transitioning to this Avanan solution with API and moving away from the message gateways. But no, good question, Randa. Thank you. Anyone else?
I've got a question, Brian. This is Jim again. You say it can replace the Barracuda. One of the aspects that we get, or one of the advantages we have with the Barracuda cloud solution, is we have unlimited storage of email records. Is that something that's available with the Avanan as well, or would that have to be configured in the Office 365?
So when you say mail records, are you actually talking about like an archive of the emails?
Yeah, an archive. Yeah.
Yep. So Avanan has an optional add-on for archiving, so we definitely could look at that as well. And sorry, I didn't know you were talking about the Barracuda Cloud offering. So it's very similar in nature, but same concept. We can add on archiving and be the same. I'm just not familiar deep dive in Barracuda what all their cloud offering has that I spoke about today with Avanan.
Oh, okay. I'm just curious because that's one of the advantages to having the Barracuda Cloud is the ability for unlimited email retention. So
yep. So I'll do some research and get you some information on what the archiving solution actually looks like with Avanan.
Cool. Thanks.
You bet, Jim.
And Brian, we had another question from Kamal asking, can you incorporate Avanan with a Barracuda? Maybe Kamal, are you talking about with the cloud Barracuda solution or maybe a Barracuda appliance?
With the Barracuda Cloud, it probably is a one or the other. If you are running a Barracuda hardware appliance, like a message gateway, you probably could, but I would probably highly discourage it, because if the Barracuda caught a message and you needed to release it, and you did, then the next hit is going to be taken is against Avanan, and it might get caught again, and you would have to release it. So you might be doing double the work if you have a hardware appliance in place. If you already have the Barracuda Cloud, it's probably going to be a very similar setup. And so you would have the same kind of thing where one's going to catch it, and then as soon as you release it, it might get caught by the other one.
Good questions. A lot of Barracuda users out there. Any other questions from anyone?
All right. Well, thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Ben, I think it's yours.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I think we have another poll question coming up. Well, first off, thanks for the instant poll, all the thumbs up there. That was a good one. But the poll question was, has your cyber insurance provider asked you to add security services? And if you are saying no, you're probably not telling the truth. So I know this has been a lot of conversations that Brian and I have had with customers. Really, it has been, hey, our cyber insurance premiums have gone skyrocketed, and we got to do something because my accounting team or my CFO is saying we got to get these premiums down. That's another thing with Brian and his team and the Davenport group, secure group. You could reach out to us and just say like, hey, I'm being asked to do these for our cyber insurance. Great conversation to have with Brian. That's a question we have day in, day out there, because that's something that's real on your mind, and you need somebody that can help you check that box really, really quick. Brian and his team have been phenomenal in helping that out. And then also telling you, hey, this is the reason they're asking this too, to give you a little education around that. So encourage you to get us involved on that.
Hey, babe. No.
So Dan, I saw your question.
I'm sorry, I was on a meeting. Just a second. Hang on.
Yeah, Terry, could you mute out? Thank you very much. Dan, we'll get to your question here probably in a little bit. We'll go ahead and move on with Steve or Apollo, who is going to be talking to us today about Apex Backup Service. So Apex Backup Service, in my eyes, it's a real modern backup solution that protects that data that is just everywhere. It's on-prem, in the cloud solution, all over the place. And it's got some other features that I'm going to let Steve take on that I really, really like around some things that have also been asked of cyber insurance companies. And if it's not, they're going to be asked about pretty soon from cyber insurance companies. But I'll let Steve O kind of take it from here to talk to you a little bit more about Apex Backup Service. Steve?
All right. Thank you very much, Ben. Appreciate that. First slide, please. So before we get too far into it, what is the Apex Backup Service? Dell Technologies has partnered with other providers, cloud providers, to offer this. It is basically a data protection solution for many different types of workloads. It is 100% cloud-based software as a service solution. So again, the main thing with that is there's absolutely no hardware to set up or manage. Nothing on your site, no matter what you're protecting. I'll go into some of the stuff you can protect with this, but we're going to really focus on the cloud portion. So cloud portion would be the SaaS apps, which would be the Microsoft 365, the Google Workspace, the Salesforce production and or sandboxes. With this tool, you can also protect endpoints such as desktops, laptops, mobile devices, phones, tablets. And you can also protect data in your data center. Hybrid workloads realistically means like virtual environments, Hyper-V, VMware. There's also agents for servers, databases, those kinds of things. So you could utilize this to protect most all of your data, depending on workloads. And if you have specific questions, we can talk about specific workloads. But again, since today we're talking about cloud, let's focus on cloud and Microsoft 365. Again, software as a service. So there's a single console. All administration is done. All the backup setup, all the restores, they're done through a web browser. So you just, as long as you have a web browser, one of the most recent ones, you've got access to it. You can also set up, since it is web-based, you could set up geofencing to limit login locations based on IP address or subnets or locations if you wanted to. So you can kind of limit how people can even log into the system. So this is all for all of these workloads. It's a subscription based per user for SaaS apps and endpoints. So how many users do you have in your M365 tenant? Those are how many licenses you can purchase. Similar thing with endpoints. If you have users that have multiple devices, it's still based on user, not device. And then the hybrid workloads is based on backend terabytes. How much data after compression and dedupe are you actually storing? Again, subscription based. So you can purchase like per year, 100 users for the next year or something like that. Again, cloud-based, one thing with cloud providers, they kind of could get you with ingress or egress fees. There's none of that. You don't have to pay for any data that comes in or out of this. It is all, again, there's ties in between the clouds, between Azure, depending on where some of these other workloads exist. Another great thing is the backend storage is there when you need it. You don't have to worry about adding or provisioning storage or those kinds of things. This is all taken care of on the back end. Again, with SaaS apps, you're really concerned with the number of users. Next slide, please. So let's kind of dig in a little bit more into what it can do for Microsoft 365. We'll focus on that. Again, if you have any other workloads you want to protect, we definitely take those offline and can work with you and see what you can do. But so for Microsoft 365, we can protect the Exchange Online, SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive data. This is one of my favorite tools. I'm an implementation engineer. And this is, again, one of my favorite tools because setup and turnaround time is easy and quick. You could start your backups the day you receive your welcome email. So what does it take to set it up? You'll get an email once you subscribe to the service. You'll get an email, again, a welcome email with some links in there. You activate your Apex account. You give it a username, password. I definitely recommend immediately creating at least one other admin account within the system because you as a customer are the only ones that have access to it. So please don't forget your passwords because there's no back end way into the data after that. So please, multiple accounts at least. So once you create that login there, you register your Microsoft 365 tenant with Apex using a global admin account. Those are connecting the two together. Then you connect Apex to your Azure Active Directory or Active Directory if you have it locally so that it can find and know what you have as far as users and all that kind of stuff. Then it comes to configuring protection policies, especially with Exchange and those kinds of things. What you're doing is I want to configure my users. You can configure a policy to say, hey, all users can be in this policy. And, that policy is governed by basically schedules and retention. How often are the backups and what is the retention? You can get pretty granular if you have different requirements based on the data types. You could do key off of Active Directory security groups, who's in what group membership, and they get added to a policy. You could do it over AD attributes, or again, I mentioned you could just hit the easy button and just say all users, policy, protect. So once you pick the users that you are going to protect and how you're going to do that, you set a schedule and retention per policy. And the schedules can be either once, twice, or thrice daily. And they legit have the word thrice in their GUI for some reason. Love it though. And it gives me the chance to use thrice in a fabulous webinar. So some of the features over there on the right side of the slide, once you get this set up, what features are available to you? Legal hold and e-discovery. You could have legal hold policies that are used to preserve backup data that avoids deletion during investigation. So if you're running through an investigation, you could have a security role for legal admins that only have access to this portion of it. So they go find the data, put the legal hold onto it while they're doing their investigations and gathering data. It also supports integration with third-party e-discovery tools that allows your legal professionals or admins of that service to handle electronic documents and discovery and investigations, and it keeps the chain of custody intact. It's going from one service to another. All of that is tracked, and there's an audit trail in the background. Automated compliance is another feature that's available. With that, there's customizable templates available that those templates are for compliance with PII, personal identifying information, HIPAA requirements, GDPR, California Consumer Privacy Act, those kinds of things. And those are pre-built templates you can customize if need be. But what that does is allow you to, when you create that template, it will look through your backup data and find the non-compliant data. And then you can take the action as needed from there. So it makes that finding that and calling your backup data much easier. Federated search kind of fits into both of those. This is available for all levels, where you can search files and emails and those kinds of things based off multiple types of attributes. You know, who's it from? When was it sent? Who did it go to? What was the attachment, or even file types, file names. You can search through all of your backups for either just basic restore or for some of these other legal hold or compliance. And of course, no product would be complete without a reporting capability. So you could create your own ad hoc reports if you want to do a couple of one-offs, just see how things are going. Or you could, most all of our customers set up daily, weekly, monthly reporting, those kinds of things. Ben, do you have a comment?
Yeah, we had a question in here that's gonna, I know because I've seen this slide deck before. I think it's gonna lead into what I feel is the most important part of this, and really separates this solution from a lot of the other solutions out there. But Dan was asking, can Apex be plugged into a power store compelling arrays directly? And he's kind of thinking alongside the lines of an offsite air gap ransomware countermeasure type of solution. I think you're going to be getting into what that question would kind of cover in the next slide here, right?
Okay.
So awesome. I recommend everybody paying attention here for the next slide. So this is the good stuff.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. So next slide, just to kind of quickly answer that question, for the SaaS apps and the endpoints, it's basically all cloud-based. You know, you're connecting from, well, I'll kind of go into this with the air gap, basically, especially again with the SaaS apps. The backend infrastructure for Apex is not housed within Microsoft or Azure data centers. It is within a separate provider. So that way, first of all, it's offsite, and you kind of get that air gap because there is no real true direct connection between the two. So when you set this up, you can pick your country and region for Apex to use for the backend storage. And then within your region that you pick, data is geo-dispersed to at least 3 different data centers. So there's that redundancy right there built in. Immutable, which is always a keyword, fun keyword. There's data lock options by policy. And you can set that by policy, so you can get pretty granular with that of what type of data you want to, or different users that you want that, or you could set it globally. Once data is locked, it is immutable. I'm not sure immute is a word, but immutable is either way. Once it's locked, you cannot disable that lock. You cannot delete the data or edit any of the retention or anything like that. It's there until that retention period is expired. The backup data, let me see where I was. Excuse me. The backup data is held in object store, which is a non-executable file system. Malware can, since it's an object store and that type of file system, malware cannot be triggered remotely or infect any other backend data that's already in there. There's no way to execute or to change any of the data that's right there. Zero trust, the administrators, you know, when you log in, it's a completely separate authentication and credential system than anything within yours. You know, definitely please don't reuse passwords, those kinds of things. So even if your Active Directory gets compromised, somebody has a domain admin account, they still cannot get into your backups to delete or make any other change. That zero trust also applies to Apex staff. The Apex staff, anybody working on the back end, does not have access to your data. Multi-factor authentication, another huge checkbox for audits. That's enabled by default using email. So when you try to log in, you'll get an email with a verification code. You have to plug it in. You can also integrate with third-party tools if so need be, but that's huge that, again, don't have to do anything. That's enabled by default. Once data is deleted, there's a delayed deletion function. So once that data is deleted, if for some reason you legitimately delete data, or if you have bad actors for somehow get into your compromised credentials, get in and start deleting data, it goes into an inaccessible offline recycle bin. So they can't delete it and then clear the recycle bin. That by default is held in that offline recycle bin for 7 days. You can change that if you need to extend that. Talked about if someone compromises your credentials and starts deleting everything, Apex staff will notify you of, hey, there's been a mass deletion event. What do you want us to do about that? So that will you'll get that warning. I don't know what that actual threshold is, but there's certain thresholds that if they start seeing a lot of data getting deleted, then you will be notified. I think that's it for that slide. Next one, please.
Well, we have one question, Steve, before you get
Okay.
into it. Is the backup traffic encrypted in transit?
Oh, yes, exactly. It is encrypted in transit and at rest. So, and that's for all of the, no matter what you're backing up, SaaS apps, M365, your laptops, desktops, or even your data center traffic. All of that is, encrypted in flight. And again, that's defaults. You don't have to enable it.
Awesome.
So operational security on the background of this whole service, they have teams, they have dedicated SecOps teams that are responsible for monitoring this service 24/7. They're looking for various indicators of any kind of intrusion or just even service availability. And that SecOps team specifically is proactive with regular vulnerability and penetration testing. So they're in the background. They're doing all this without you having to do anything about it. That's all taken care of. I did mention that the back-end teams, whether they're admins or even the SecOps, do not have access to your customer data. That is encrypted. They don't have any way to access it or even decrypt it. The Apex, they also have a regular patching and upgrade cycles where new and improved features are added with no customer actions needed. Again, software as a service, you may get an email with some release notes saying, hey, we've upgraded the service and here's some features that have been added, or maybe there's bug fixes or something like that. You will see those new features the next time you log in, and those are available. There's no add-ons for that. That is just, they're constantly improving, listening to customers and improving this. That is all I have. Is there any questions? Hopefully I answered some of the ones that were asked already.
Yeah, and while people are thinking of their questions, that's one thing I really like about this is it's constantly improving. We've rolled this out to a number of customers, and you see a lot of these features just, all right, now this is a feature in there that wasn't there before, and you've seen that over the years of the Apex backup service. It's been really cool, and it truly is that modern backup solution and utilizing cloud where you need to utilize cloud. So do we have any questions for Steve?
Hey, Steve, it's Jackson. I have a real
Hey.
quick one.
Okay.
Apex Backup Service looks like a fantastic platform, but I'm curious, why do we need an Apex platform like that? Doesn't Microsoft already back up that data?
Oh, good question. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up because, I had talked about what and how Apex backup service works, but I didn't get into why. Why would you want to use it? Basically, Microsoft and most other cloud providers, they have this, what they call a shared responsibility model, which means the provider, Microsoft in this case, they're responsible for platform uptime, availability, and security in the background. So that's kind of, they're taking care of it from that security and disaster recovery aspect, while the customer is responsible for the protection, retention, and recovery of your data that's in the platform. I know Microsoft at least has like a recycle bin. If you delete an email, it goes into a recycle bin. I think it was like 30 days after that, it's permanently deleted. There's no way to get it back. So this is a way for you to safeguard your data for accidental deletions that you may not know about, and then somebody contacts you 3 months later and, hey, where'd all this, my whole folder for my quarterly financials is gone. So that kind of stuff, you can get that back. That is a great question though. Thank you. One thing I was thinking about, I think Dan, you had mentioned about some local storage or something like that. Again, SaaS and endpoints just go directly to the cloud. If you're talking about hybrid where you're protecting your data center, there is a cloud cache you could use where you could back up your data directly to on-prem storage and then, have it also in the cloud. The benefit of that is you get quicker restores because you're doing restores of data that could be, again, your data center data that could be much faster at LAN speeds, 10 gig, 25 gig as things get faster.
I'd like to
So-
add to that, if I may, about the
Yes.
hybrid. We use this platform. It's really cool if we've got cloud cache. It's really cool. Let's say something happens with one of your VMs and it goes down. Well, it's constantly backed up. Well, you can spin up that VM and it'll spin it up right on your cloud cache, and it'll just work until you're able to get your permanent solution back in place. So that's a really big selling point for us.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for those real world examples. Definitely love to see it in action, doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah. We have another question from Nate on here, and this may go back to Brian Bennett. But he's asking, do you do penetration testing for Azure and O365 environments?
Hey, Nate, actually we do. We can do some infrastructure testing against your cloud environments. That is something we can take offline and discuss and look at a scope. But yes.
Yeah, so Nate, I'd recommend you reach out to your account executive in your area to help you out with that. I know they'll be following up with each and every one of you that attended today. So really appreciate the questions. Do we have any other questions for Steve or any of our presenters today? Nope. All right. Well, do we have another poll question? Yeah, I think we have one more poll question on here. Can you meet company insurance and legal requirements for cloud applications? It's a really good question. And I think a lot of people may say I don't know on that one as well. At least that is the case I've seen with a lot of folks. Just because there's so many different requirements or compliances that are thrown out at you, to know that you're doing all of them is pretty tough, especially if you're on the IT side of the house. You know what you want to get some requirements that you see on your end, but not sure what you're getting from your company or insurance there. And that's, again, where all of us, all the presenters today can help out with that, whether it's Mike or Steve or Brian. We can definitely help out, or anybody on their team, we can definitely help out with these solutions to help protect that data that is everywhere. And really appreciate you all attending today, getting a little bit of education around some of the new solutions that Davenport Group has provided for that. And as a thank you to the listening to us today, we're going to get you even more educated here with a year's subscription to Masterclass. And this is specifically a thank you for attending and listening to us today. What you'll do to get that subscription will be to email marketing@davenportgroup.com, the keyword security, so we know you really listened on here. And you should get that invite to the subscription within 2 or 3 days, probably next week if you reply today or send the email today. But I really recommend you all reach out to your account executives, because we went over some specific solutions that we have out there to protect that data that's everywhere. But there's a lot more that we can do than that. And we're going to keep having these webinars to make sure you know all these things that we know and want to let you know about Davenport Group here. But I encourage you to just sit down with each of your account executives and saying like, hey, these are some of the things I just want more info on, or these are some of the projects we're looking at doing, or these are some of the initiatives or requirements that have been tossed on me as the CIO, IT manager, IT director, and I need some help here because that's what Davenport Group is here to do. We're here to help. We've got experts like Brian, Steve, and Mike to help out with that. We've got a ton of experts out there to help you solve these IT problems around data. So really appreciate the time again today. We cut it right. I think we're just 1 minute over an hour. So everybody did a great job of presenting. Thank you all for presenting today, and thank you all for attending, and we'll be in touch. Everybody, have a great afternoon.